Flight 782 departed from Seattle to Honolulu on a clear morning, carrying 214 passengers, 7 crew members and one 18-year-old student named Lena Carter, who had no idea her life was about to change forever. Lena sat by the window, headphones on, a notebook resting on her knees. To anyone watching. Yet she looked like any other college freshman. Jeans, worn sneakers, messy ponytail. She was flying alone, heading home for the summer after finishing her first semester in engineering school. Flying didn't scare her. In fact, it comforted her. Most people didn't know this about Lena, but airplanes had been part of her life since childhood. Her late father was a commercial pilot. When she was little, she used to sit beside him at home, watching planes land on a tiny laptop screen. Flight simulators, manuals, cockpit diagrams, those were her bedtime stories. But life had moved on. Her father was gone. Flying was now just a hobby, a quiet memory. Or so she thought. The cabin lights dimmed as the plane reached cruising altitude. Passengers watched movies, slept, laughed softly. The engines hummed steadily, calm, reliable. Then suddenly, a sharp jolt shook the aircraft. Gasps echoed through the cabin. A flight attendant lost her balance, but quickly recovered, forcing a smile. "Just light turbulence," she announced. But Lena felt it. This wasn't normal. Moments later, the plane lurched again, harder this time. Overhead, bins rattled, drinks spilled. A baby began to cry. The engine sound changed. Lena pulled off her headphones. Something was wrong. The captain's voice came over the intercom, strained but controlled. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We are experiencing a minor technical issue. Please remain seated." Minor. That word didn't match what Lena felt in her chest. The plane started descending, not gently, but unevenly. Her stomach dropped. She looked around. Passengers exchanged nervous glances. Then the seatbelt sign blinked on. Again and again. Without warning, the aircraft dipped sharply. Screams erupted. Oxygen panels trembled as if ready to burst open. Lena's heart pounded. She focused on the front of the plane. What exactly is failing, she wondered. Minutes dragged by like hours. Then the cabin lights flickered. Once, twice. The engine sputtered and returned, but the sound was wrong, deep, uneven. Suddenly, the intercom clicked on again, but this time it wasn't the captain. It was the head flight attendant, her voice shaking despite her effort. "We need everyone to stay calm," she said. "Please tighten your seatbelts." That's when the truth hit Lena. If things were under control, the pilots would be speaking. The plane shook violently now. Luggage spilled from an open bin. A man shouted, someone prayed out loud. And then oxygen masks dropped. Panic exploded. The pressure in the cabin shifted fast. Lena grabbed a mask and placed it over her face, breathing hard, eyes locked on the... She watched 2 flight attendants rush forward. "Cockpit door." Seconds passed. They knocked. No answer. They knocked harder. Still nothing. Lena unbuckled her seatbelt without thinking. A flight attendant tried to stop her. "Miss, please?" "They're unconscious," Lena said, her voice steady even as her hands trembled. "Right?" The attendant froze. That answer was enough. Inside the cockpit, something had gone catastrophically wrong. Loss of cabin pressure, possibly hypoxia. That meant the pilots had only seconds, maybe already too late. The head flight attendant turned pale. "Do you know something we don't?" Lena swallowed. Memories of her father explaining emergency checklists flashed through her mind. "If they're not responding," Lena said carefully, "someone needs to fly the plane." Silence followed her words. Then nervous laughter from a passenger nearby. "Fly the plane?" Someone scoffed. "This isn't a movie." Lena wished it wasn't either. But the aircraft banked left, too sharply. Alarms blared from the cockpit. A red warning light flashed above the door. The laughter died instantly. Air traffic control crackled through the speakers, distorted but urgent. "Flight 782, respond immediately." No answer. Lena stepped forward. "I can help," she said. The flight attendant stared at her. How old are you?" 18, Lena replied. "I've never flown a real plane, but I understand systems, autopilot, stabilization." The attendant hesitated. Another violent shake forced everyone to grab their seats. This was no longer about age. It was about survival. The cockpit door was unlocked. When it opened, the reality inside sucked the air from Lena's lungs. Both pilots were slumped in their seats. Oxygen masks dangled uselessly. Warning alarms screamed from every panel. The aircraft was flying, but barely. Lena stepped inside. Her legs felt heavy, but her mind snapped into focus. This is real, she told herself. This is happening. Behind her, passengers screamed, prayed, held each other. Lena sat down in the captain's seat. She placed her hands on the controls. They fit. For the first time since the chaos began, the plane leveled slightly. And somewhere far above the clouds, 2 F-22 fighter jets altered their course, unaware that the fate of hundreds below was about to rest in the hands of a student who refused to give up. For a moment, everything inside the cockpit felt unreal. Warning alarms screamed. Lights flashed red and orange. The plane trembled like a living thing in pain. Lena Carter sat frozen in the captain's seat, staring at instruments she had only ever seen on a screen. Focus, she told herself. Breathe. She pulled the oxygen mask fully over her face and strapped it tight. The air hit her lungs sharply, on clearing the fog from her head. Then she reached over and secured the co-pilot's mask. Too late. He didn't move. She glanced back once, forcing herself not to panic. Outside the cockpit, passengers cried. Some shouted her name, though most didn't even know it. A flight attendant knelt near the door, gripping the seat frame, whispering prayers. Lena turned back to the controls. Altitude dropping, speed unstable, autopilot disengaged. Her hands moved on instinct. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. First rule in the cockpit, fly the plane. She straightened the nose. The shaking eased, just a little. That's it, easy, she whispered. The aircraft leveled out. A stunned silence fell across the cockpit. Then the radio crackled. Flight 782, this is Seattle Center. Do you read us? Lena swallowed hard and pressed the transmit button. This is Lena Carter, she said, her voice thin but clear. The pilots are unconscious. I'm in the captain's seat. There was a pause. Too long. Then, Lena, we hear you, the controller replied calmly. You're doing great. We're here with you. Can you maintain altitude? Lena checked the instruments. Barely, but yes. Good, the controller said. Listen carefully. We'll talk you through everything. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. I understand basic systems, Lena said. Flight simulator training, years of it. That might just save a lot of lives today, the controller replied. The plane continued forward through open sky, but fuel was becoming an issue. Turning back to Seattle wasn't possible. The nearest long runway was an airbase off the coast. As controllers coordinated, something new appeared on the radar. 2 fast-moving signatures. Moments later, Lena caught sight of them through the window. F-22 Raptor fighter jets. They flew alongside her, sleek, steady, controlled. For the first time since entering the cockpit, Lena smiled. I've got company, she said softly. Those jets are yours, the controller replied. They'll guide you in. The fighters adjusted their wings, signaling gently. Follow us, Lena nodded, even though they couldn't see her. The wind picked up, clouds thickened, turbulence returned, rougher this time. The plane rocked. A loud alarm blared. Don't fight it, the controller said quickly. Trim down, reduce speed. Lena adjusted the throttle. Too much. The nose dipped hard. Screams echoed from the cabin. I'm losing it, Lena shouted. You're not, the controller said firmly. Correct slowly. She eased back. The plane stabilized again. Her hands ached. Sweat soaked her shirt. Every muscle burned with tension. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the runway lights came into view, long, narrow, shining like hope itself. There it is, the controller said. You see it? Yes, Lena breathed. Okay, Lena, this is the hardest part. You will land this plane. Her heart thundered. The jets peeled away, one on each side, guiding her descent. Passengers pressed their faces to the windows, watching. A student, flying a commercial aircraft. The plane began its final descent. Too fast. Lena pulled back carefully. Wind slammed into the wings. The aircraft shook violently. Easy, easy, she whispered, repeating her father's words. The ground rushed closer. Landing geared down, the controller said. Gear down, Lena confirmed, flipping the switch. A quiet thump answered. Her breathing became sharp and shallow. Align with the center line. She adjusted. The left wing dipped. She corrected. The runway filled the windshield. Now, Lena, the controller said calmly, when you touch down, don't force it. Let the plane land itself. The wheels hit hard. The plane bounced. Gasps, screams. Lena almost panicked but didn't. She held steady. The aircraft dropped again, this time smoothly. The roar of reverse thrust thundered through the cabin. Speed decreased. The runway flew beneath them. Then finally, the plane slowed to a safe roll. It was over. For a second, there was silence. Then the entire aircraft erupted. Crying, screaming, applause. People hugged strangers. Some fell to their knees. Inside the cockpit, Lena slumped back in her seat, shaking. She had done it. As the aircraft taxied safely to a stop, Lena looked out the window. Above the runway, the two F-22s passed once more, wings tilting in a perfect, unmistakable salute. Tears streamed freely down her face. Later, paramedics rushed in. The pilots were taken out. Passengers poured onto the tarmac, many stopping to look back at the cockpit. At her, news cameras arrived within minutes. "Who are you?" a reporter shouted. Lena hesitated. "I'm just a student," she said quietly. But the world disagreed. By morning, her story was everywhere. 18-year-old student lands plane after pilot's collapse. Fighter jets escort hero to safety. Saved 221 lives without ever flying before. Days later, at the same airbase, Lena stood on the runway. The commander of the F-22 squadron shook her hand. "From pilots to pilots," he said. "Welcome." Lena looked toward the sky, smiling softly. Her father would have been proud. She hadn't planned to fly that day. But when the world needed her, she took control. "Reduce speed," the controller urged.